Curse of Strahd Breakdown, Session 21. Here's what we do with this series. If you're new to this series, I, as a Dungeon Master of Curse of Strahd that I'm running right now, I have a binder that fully breaks down Curse of Strahd. I'll show you all that in a second. And have playing this game with my home table. We're 21 sessions in now, and these videos here, I give the breakdown of what happens in the actual sessions. This is the behind the scenes of what goes on, my Dungeon Master thoughts, things that are going on that I've made tweaks and changes, whether it be on the fly or beforehand, things I've changed to Curse of Strahd in general, and give you the full spoilers of what's going on here, which also I guess would include a little bit of Curse of Strahd spoilers themselves, but maybe not, because I've taken it in a very much different direction, all documented in the Notion document that I'll talk about here in a second. So I have done the 21 of these episodes before this, so I have a whole list of these. I'll put that link down in the description, but from now on I'm going to be posting these on my main channel to see how that goes, and then we'll go from there. So here's the breakdown. I have my Dungeon Master binder right here. I have the entire campaign of Curse of Strahd all in here. Every single thing. The campaign overview has every single zone known to man. Each of them has flavored text, images. Green means that you read it off. Blue means it's secret, don't tell anybody. And I went through the whole document, and I have curated and streamlined the entire thing for you Dungeon Masters out there, and all of that. So if you're also unfamiliar with this whole entire document is available to patrons. It's one of the rewards that I give out, and the actual live play footage of me playing this at the table is also available on Patreon. So now, without all of that out of the way, here's what went down in this session. So I'm going to go over to the main Curse of Strahd into the specific session binder that I write out for each session. At the start of this whole thing, where my players are at in the big picture is they have traveled all the way to Vallaki. They've interacted with the Burgomaster in a whole bunch of ways. They went back and had a meeting with Strahd, or they had dinner with Strahd. They came back, and now they're like, where do we go? They went to the Vistani camp and got a relic. They got one of the 3 relics, the Sun Sword, which I'm taking in a completely different direction, which I guess we'll talk about that here, because one of the things they got was this legendary Sun Sword, and I have an entire homebrew situation, which you can see right here, of the different levels to unlock of this Sun Sword. The Sun Sword, it's just a hilt. It's super basic at level 1. The item levels up as you unlock it. It only can communicate through vibrations of the actual sword vibrating, and it's afraid of the dark is its main thing. And in order to level up this sword, you have to comfort it while in the dark. Creative option here, one of the players casted light on the object, and I ruled that as a very creative solution to a problem they didn't know they were solving. And then the sword level up to level 2, and there's some other things going along with that. And as the sword levels up, it gains more abilities and is able to speak more and other things like that. So there is the sword. They were able to interact with that and start to put it together. Also, an interesting thing that happened with the sword, to talk about all the stuff that happened before the big huge thing, because also the big huge thing that happened this session was a bunch of traps went off, and there was some issues that went down there, which we'll save that, and some Dungeon Master tips for y'all on how to run traps and handle those, because whoo buddy. But anyway, one of the players cast Identify on this item, and with Identify, dear God, I do not like the Identify spell, but I do respect it. So they cast Identify on it, and all I did, I took a sand timer. I have one of a sand timer in my Dungeon Master thing. I flipped over the sand timer, and I let them have a 1-minute conversation with the sword, fully unadulterated. The sword is the spirit. Spoilers. The sword is the spirit of Sergei, Strahd's brother. The one who Strahd killed. It is the spirit of Sergei in this moment to be able to talk and interact with. So we started talking, and I was very vague with the role play because I didn't want to give away too much, because I have to be. This is a huge item, a huge plot piece. So on the fly role play, I did not plan this at all, but I was just like, yeah, okay, you cast Identify and you get a minute to talk to Sergei, and all he was like, oh, where am I? And they're like, who are you? And I made the sword. The sword made a roll. The sword made an insight check against himself, because he's in a fog and in a haze, like, wait, where's my body, what's going on? And so he was like afraid, and I can't see anything, where am I? And then I rolled very high on the insight check against itself, and I was like, Sergei. They said, what's your name? And I said, Sergei. They have no idea who Sergei is. He did not say Sergei von Zarovich, which is Strahd's brother. So they had no idea about that. And then the only thing they really got out of it through the questions they asked him was, I need to protect my wife. He killed her. And they said, who killed her? And he said, Strahd. And then that was when the timer ran out, and that was it. That's all they got from it, which is a lot, honestly. So love that. And then I had some other little scenes here with Joran, the little the NPC that they got. So in general, in these little breakdowns, these are the things that I kind of keep track of. So whenever they go back to Vallaki, because I know they're going to, what little nuggets of things may or may not happen, and I have these little drop downs to talk about. You know, the new adventuring group that's in town. What are they like? And then they buy a house, and one of the players wants to buy a house, and I have a whole chart here. Again, there you go. Also scattered in these videos are just general random Dungeon Master resources that are straight from my Dungeon Master binder that I'll just like leak out and show here, no problem. So there's that, and then now the big thing of what happened in the first little 2 days or so of downtime, just kind of like getting back from everything and talking about it. The Rogue, Felix the Rogue, set up more stuff with his little band of hobo spies. Really, really cool stuff he's doing. It's just to set up and everything. So I'm doing a lot of stuff in between sessions and talk with him in between sessions on getting that whole thing set up so it doesn't take a lot of time at the table, because it's really cool stuff he's doing, but I don't want it to slow the session down, right? And neither does he. So that's really cool. Lars the Bard and Irina had they continued their relationship. They're basically boyfriend and girlfriend at this point. It's so adorable, and I love to see what happens with that, because I don't know what kind of heartbreaks that's going to cause, because man, oh man, Irina is a huge part of this entire story. So Pug was able to figure out some things with Joran. Pug goes to see Joran because Joran's in the stocks after the last session where they kind of interrogated him and got him drunk, and he accidentally cast magic in public. Joran's in the stocks, and through a natural 20 intimidation, it was actually I said make an intimidation at advantage. He rolled a 19, and then the very next roll was and they're like, oh sweet, so you're good, and they're like, no, roll it again to see if you crit. And that happens all the time. I can't tell you how many times that happens at tables, and I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about. But it actually was a crit, a 19, and then they rolled the advantage half of it, and it actually was a crit, right? Which is also in general why I usually have players roll 2 dice at the same time. I've done a whole video on that. But anyway, a natural 20 intimidation got Joran to crack, and Joran revealed that he's not an abjuration wizard. He's actually an illusion wizard, and the burgomaster has people. He has a prison on the second floor of his building. Something's going on with Isaac. He doesn't know. Don't go on the date with him. It's a trap. I don't know what he wants to do, and he found out a lot of information from Joran. It was great. And Pug kind of semi-promised Joran that Joran could join the group if Joran goes and be a spy. So what's going to happen now with Joran is Joran's going to try and be a spy, which would technically be, I guess, a double agent spy for the group. And if he gets caught, that's going to be very bad. So I'm going to make a roll off screen. In fact, I'll make a roll right now. I'm going to make a roll, and we'll see how Joran does, right? Natural 20. I am serious, y'all. I am serious. Natural 20. I'm so glad I rolled that on camera. That's crazy. So natural 20. Joran is going to go in there. I just got chills. That's crazy. Joran is now a spy for the group. And as an illusion wizard, is going to be a pretty damn good spy. So I'm going to come up with a whole thing where Joran creates an illusory duplicate of himself to then bring the burgomaster over here, starts talking to him through his illusion, and then he travels through and finds out some information, and he is going to give them so much information. Oh my gosh, that is wild. In fact, right now, I'm going to make a note for myself here, is Joran Spy Nat 20. Dear God, there we go. Joran Spy Nat 20. That's crazy. So anyway, this is all happening live here in this video. That's nuts. So that happened. Finian went and did some more investigations, and that's how Finian was the one who found out what they found out about the sword and was talking with the sword. So they all had their little downtime moments. They came back together as a group to figure out what they're going to do, and they're going to go to the tower. So now, back to the Dungeon Master binder. Now they're going to go to the tower. It's as simple as this. I go to my Dungeon Master binder. Here's all the places. Vendrickton's Tower. Ba-ba-da-ba, and here's Vendrickton's Tower. The PC version of the map is right there, and then the Dungeon Master version is also on there. And then I have all my stuff, and this is why I love my Dungeon Master binder, because they can go anywhere and I'm ready for it. Any sorts of things I need to remind myself of, it's right here. Everything's color coded. Pink is danger, green is chill, gold is very key important information, right? So there's this wagon out front, but it's a trap. There's also a door in the front, but it's a trap. So there's 2 traps here, and the players activated both of them. So here's the quick rundown from myself as a Dungeon Master. In my head, Esmeralda is at the top of this tower. I also have an Esmeralda encounter down here under special events, and there was 5 different things that what she could be doing. And the thing that made the most sense was Esmeralda was going to be at the top of the tower in a disguise as someone else and camping out there. And then the group goes up, knocks on the door, which activates the trap. So if you go to here, you go to the trap door, there's a lightning trap door, and the trigger is to touch the door. And a huge amount of lightning damage happens. And if it's done 3 times, the tower collapses. So huge amount of lightning damage goes out. Everybody takes a huge amount of lightning damage. It was crazy. It was funny. Cool. And that type of trap, okay, that's fine. That's like, okay, there's no warnings really. Now, I did very much show the door image because there was a little bit of drama that came out about this trap. So I want to talk about it here in this little breakdown. So this is the door. If you're not familiar with the door, I put this door out there. I have an iPad that's part of my Dungeon Master screen. For the first time ever as a Dungeon Master, I took out my iPad, turned it around, set it down on the table with that image so they had the image of this puzzle door in front of them, right? I left it there for 5, 6, 7, close to honestly 10 minutes. I guess I'd have to check the footage. But I had this table thing that's sitting out in front of him for this door. There was an Arcana check made for the door. And he's like, you see some symbols in the iconography, but then Felix the Rogue knocked on it, lightning damage, crazy. Oh, but everybody's okay. And then I addressed the door again. Pug noticed the door. I said, you see stick figures. They seem to be stick figures in certain poses, right? And then no more effort was gone towards poses or anything else. Let's just dispel the magic. So there's a dispel, a magic item that they had that can dispel magic with touch. If you notice up here, Kazan's anti-magic field, all magic is canceled within 5 feet of the tower. So Finian goes up. I even give Finian a perception check. I gave Finian a free perception check to notice if the magic dimmed in the ring before touching it. Didn't roll high enough. Boom! Lightning triggers again. Oh my god, right? So now each time here, I know that Esmeralda, this NPC, is hiding at the top of this tower. And I have to constantly think of what would she do? What would she do? What would she do? Oh my god. Oh my god. So I was like, I want them to be able to accelerate the plot. I want them to see Esmeralda. I want them to interact with this really cool character. So I had Esmeralda fake like, help. I said that after the first lightning, they heard a and they didn't really respond to that at all or didn't really do anything with that. And then after the second one, she's like, stop, please stop. So then I interacted with them with an NPC, and this is also a chance for me to give them clues and stuff like that. And so I'm talking with them and like, please no. And the rogue said, I'm going to go over the wagon. Leave, that's my wagon. Don't go in there. You don't want to go in there. Because I know that this trap is very bad. And this is me as a dungeon master warning the players through a character of, hey, don't go through the trap. Don't go through the trap. That's my wagon. Don't enter it. Please leave it alone. Like, who are you? Get down here. I'm stuck. I'm trapped. Hell, And so there was this whole thing. So then they stopped for a second, had a little moment of climbing a ladder, and then the rolls were bad. And then Felix the Rogue tried to turn into a were-raven for the first time. Rolled really bad on his check to try and control the lycanthropy. It was hilarious though to see him try to do it and it not work, but that was the whole thing. And then now they're like, well, I got nothing else to do. I'm going to go back to the wagon, and everyone's standing around the wagon. And this wagon, y'all, look at this thing. This wagon's crazy. This is from the module. Whoa. This is from the module. But the wagon explodes and deals 10d10 fire damage. That's a lot of fire damage, right? And Irina was in the blast radius of this fire damage. And Irina has 25 hit points, and this thing was in shot of potentially being able to kill her in one hit. As a dungeon master, I probably could have done a better job of setting the stage for that. But honestly, I was like, oh man, this is all going real bad and south and all that kind of stuff. And this is where the first little timeout moment comes in here, is one of the players at the table had an issue with the traps. Like, oh, this isn't fair. Oh, that's real fair. And you know what I mean? And I know Dungeon Masters, you'll have times where players are disgruntled by the traps, right? So, and it's on you as to how you handle that. But how I handle that is to meet it head on. And I don't want to like tippy-toe around like, oh, it's okay. Oh, sorry. I guess you didn't like it. To be like, no, like I want to know, because I want to talk about it and get it out there on if it's fair or not, right? So I said, yes, these are things in the trap, in the dungeons. I have done things myself with this module to make it not be like, because I don't want to have there be a trap that's just like, ha, gotcha, sucker, you know? I said, but you guys have a door in front of you with a symbol that put out. And the player was like, well, I mean, it's not a puzzle. Normally you put something out in front of us. And the other players also saw like, no, I took out this iPad and put down the picture. I've never done this like all session. I've never done this all campaign, is to put out an image of the door showing the iconography and all that kind of stuff. A check was made. You ignored it as for roleplay reasons. Sure. Big ow, lightning damage. And then Pug realized it's not a language, it's positions. And y'all never went down that rabbit hole. And for the most part, everybody was like, oh, okay, I see that. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. And so that, I guess, it at least takes a little bit of the edge off of, hey, there was a trap door with a puzzle to it that y'all tried to first, jokingly, haha, knock on, got zapped, tried to ignore the puzzle again to dispel it, and then got zapped, right? But they didn't know about the anti-magic field. So it's legitimately like there's some things that happened, and I think I was totally fine how it went. I didn't think it was unfair at all. There was a obvious puzzle that I put in front of them with a picture of the puzzle. They know that there's positions, and there's the people. There's certain positions. There's stick figures on this puzzle, right? And the puzzle was to each person had to hold a position that the puzzle showed, and if you pose in those positions, the door opens, right? It is like a next level puzzle. I'd say it's like of 3 tiers of puzzles. It'd be like a tier 2 puzzle. It's not like a gimme puzzle, right? But at least they could have gone down that rabbit hole to give it a shot and try, and then maybe the person, and they could have had a shot, right? And there could have been some checks made and some thoughts made, but then they never went down that rabbit hole, so you got shocked twice. There you go. And then the wagon is a rigged trap that I also called out multiple times. Don't open the wagon. No, it's my wagon. Leave it alone. And then lockpick and boom, it explodes. And in some ways, there's just things that happen in this world that make sense. She has rigged her own wagon as a death trap against any sort of werewolves in the area, any sort of whatever, and you got exploded by it. So, and I was kind of like, oh, this isn't fair. Well, you were warned and then still did it, and then boom, right? So there's that. There was one moment where the player, and I thought this might have been something that I going back, I could have maybe done, is the player, the disgruntled player that was like, it's not fair. There was a moment where like the trap drops, like a glass vial drops and catches fire to the whole thing. He's like, can I try and catch the glass vial? And I already knew at this point that the player was a little bit disgruntled with the whole thing. And honestly, I'm going to try and really just leave my own mind right here. If the player hadn't have been so disgruntled and was kind of like more like, like going with it, and going along with the flow, and it wasn't as like grumpy with it, I might have actually been like, you know what? Yeah, let's go. But it's almost like in some ways as a dungeon master, you have to stay in control of your table to make sure that like, hey, like this is what's happening in the world. Right, I want my players to be able to challenge, and I think it's fair. This is Curse of Strahd, and this is the first time in 21 sessions where this big, huge trap has gone off in their face. They've done so great with so many other things, and in this scenario, there was not any sort of, for this wagon, there was never an investigation on the wagon because there's a trapdoor underneath. And this rogue has plenty of high enough to know that it would have easily found there's something underneath. Not a single mention was, there's a lock on the back with a sign that says keep out. Ignored the sign, never checked for traps at all, never mentioned checking for traps. That was another thing I think that the player might look back and say like, oh, you know what? No. I never checked for traps. They just opened it, right? So as a dungeon master, you can't just be like, oh, it's not fair. Okay, yeah, you can do this. Oh, yeah, you can do that. You know what I'm saying? So I stood my ground in the moment, and because of the recklessness, right? So I don't want to say it's all because it was a grumpy player. It was the recklessness of, I'm gonna knock on it. Oh, that's crazy. I'm gonna just open it, right? Boom, right? No, you're not gonna be able to be able to try and catch the thing, because you did not say you're looking for traps. You're not saying you're checking it for traps. You never really investigated it to check it out in the first place. You just said you were unlocking the door. So there's that, right? So I stood my ground on it, and I was like, no, I don't think you would be able to catch that thing or make a check to try and catch it. And then boom, right? So there's that at the end of the day. I'm going to talk to the player. I'm going to reach out to them one-on-one and be like, okay, so hey, like let's talk about it. Like what this is what could have happened. What do you think? You know, and try and not just convince them. I'm not trying to debate them and win or anything like that. I just wanted them to know where I'm coming from and why I made the thoughts I did. I'll hear them on their point, and then cool. They hopefully will be able to take that and be able to stomach it and be like, yeah, you know, I see what I could have done. And I can take that feedback and be like, all right, I'm going to make sure that maybe I see, careful with those types of traps. If they don't like this type, give it a little bit more warnings, give it a little more heads up, etc. But at the end of the day, certain traps are not going to well, first of all, there's a sign that says keep out, and I had an NPC yell, don't open that. So like at some point it's out of your hands, right? And I don't think I would have done anything different on this trap. I very much think back on it, and by no means am I a perfect dungeon master at all, but I always reflect back and think on, would I have done it differently? And the answer here is no, I would not have done it differently. That wagon was exploded. You could have checked around it to see there's a trapdoor underneath. Didn't happen. Could have said you check for traps. And then when you open the door, oh, there's something that's about to fall. There's for sure a trap here. Can you want to try and disarm it? And you know what I'm saying? We could go down that rabbit hole. Neither of those rabbit holes went down, so I don't feel bad for exploding this wagon. Now, it does suck that it's 10d10 fire damage. Whoa, that's rough, right? But that is kind of the way the cookie crumbled there. So in the midst of all of this, the wagon explodes, and now I'm like, okay, I now also know here that there's a special event here for the werewolves, and after the now this actually, oh sorry, let me show you here. It says werewolf alert, triggers the wagon or lightning tower trap. 1 hour later the werewolves show up. This is what I have written down on my Dungeon Master binder to show my notes here. And then Kirill leads. There's 6 werewolves, 9 wolves, a bunch of them show up. Now I changed that on the fly. It says 1 hour, but no, that's not what the story was going. That's not where everything was going. Multiple boom, like this crazy stuff's going on. The werewolves are going to show up sooner than an hour, right? So this is something as a dungeon master, you want to know what the world is around you. I've heavily prepared my Dungeon Master binder, as you see, and it says 1 hour. But in the moment, we're at the end of the session too. The session was at the very, very end. We're actually a little bit over time. Usually we play for about 3 hours. We're about 3 hours and 15. So I was looking for a thing to end it on, and this is kind of a great thing to end it on. The werewolves show up. After multiple things go off, the werewolves show up, right? And you hear howls from the distance, and they start to run and attack the group. Had an hour gone by? No. Probably 20, 30 minutes. And I think that's close enough as a dungeon master to be able to, all right, interpret. I always, a lot of times, feel like I'm a tarot card reader, and I'm like interpreting what the players are doing, what decisions they're making, what things are going good, what things are going bad, what are the dice doing, right? So this was my interpretation of it. The werewolves are going to come down on them, and they are coming down on them, and Esmeralda's like, we got to get out of here, and then they're like, we run. So now they mount the horses and ride away from the wolves. So we're starting off next session with a werewolf chase, where on horseback, the players are going to be running through the woods on horseback with 9 wolves and 6 werewolves chasing them, with Esmeralda on their side essentially to fight them, and Irina all on their side. So we'll see what happens next session, because it's going to start off with a freaking bang. So I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. They're not always this long. If something does intricate happen, like the trap situation, I will for sure talk about it. Shed the light on the good, the bad, the ugly, the successes, the good spots, the bad spots, all that kind of stuff, and see what's going on. So let me know what your thoughts are on the trap situation down below. Let me know what things that you want to maybe hear next time. And if you want to check out all the stuff, all of this is available on Patreon, all the different types of tiers and stuff there to support what I do here. Super appreciate it. Stay creative. Thanks in the box.